The silent signal. The quantum array had been silent for 6 years, 3 months, and 12 days. Dr. Sarah Chen knew this because she'd been the one to switch it on, fresh out of her postdoc, full of hope and caffeine-fueled determination. Now, on a cold lunar morning, that same array screamed to life with a signal that would change humanity forever. "Tell me I'm not hallucinating," Sarah whispered, her breath fogging the observation window of Lunar Station Artemis. Below her, the massive dishes of the quantum array pivoted in perfect synchronization, tracking something far beyond the solar system's edge. Dr. James Morrison, her longtime colleague, pressed his palm against the reinforced glass. "If you're hallucinating, we both are. Signal strength is increasing. Whatever this is, it's approaching at." He squinted at the readout. "That can't be right." "Try me," Sarah said, already running calculations in her head. "Faster than light. A lot faster." James pulled up a holographic display, his dark fingers dancing through the light. "It's like nothing in our database. The quantum signature is orders of magnitude more complex than anything we've ever detected." Sarah felt her heart race. 6 years of silence, of funding reviews and skeptical committees, of defending the array's existence to penny-pinching administrators. Now this. "Get me a direct feed to the signal processing core. If this is first contact, I want to be ready." The signal arrived 3 hours later, manifesting as a sphere of silvery light in the station's main laboratory. Sarah and her team watched in stunned silence as it resolved into a holographic figure, tall, ethereal, with multiple limbs that seemed to shift and flow like liquid mercury. "Greetings, children of Earth," the figure spoke, its voice resonating in perfect English. "I am Zixtal, emissary of the collective. Your species has been chosen for assessment." Sarah stepped forward, her scientific training warring with primal awe. "Assessment for what?" The hologram's form rippled. "For ascension to the galactic community, naturally. Though I must warn you, the trial ahead will test more than your technology or intelligence. It will probe the very nature of your species." "We're ready," Sarah said, but Zixtal raised a flowing limb. "Are you?" "Consider carefully. Of the last 1,000 species we've assessed, only 12 have survived. The others..." The hologram darkened momentarily. "The others proved themselves unworthy of existence." The laboratory fell silent. Sarah felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. This wasn't just first contact. It was humanity's trial for survival. "The collective has watched your kind for centuries," Zixtal continued. "Your wars, your struggles, your relentless drive to expand and consume. Some among us advocated for your immediate extinction. Others saw potential." James stepped up beside Sarah. "You can't just show up and demand we prove our worth. We have rights, sovereignty." "You have what we allow you to have," Zixtal interrupted, its form growing larger, more imposing. "The trial begins now. You have 1 Earth year to prepare. When we return, you will face challenges that have broken civilizations far more advanced than yours. Should you fail," the hologram's color shifted to a deep, threatening red. "Well, let us hope you don't fail." The hologram vanished, leaving the laboratory in darkness. Emergency lights flickered on, revealing the shocked faces of Sarah's team. Dr. Chen, one of the junior researchers, whispered, "What do we do?" Sarah stared at the space where the hologram had been, her mind racing through possibilities, implications, threats, and opportunities. She thought about humanity's history, its triumphs and failures, its capacity for both destruction and creation. "We do what humans have always done," she said finally, turning to face her team. "We adapt, we innovate, and we prove them wrong about everything they think they know about us." She walked to the quantum array's control panel and began typing. "James, get me a direct line to the Security Council. We need to inform every government simultaneously. No advantages, no secrets. Humanity needs to stand united on this." "And then?" James asked, already reaching for the communications array. Sarah smiled, but there was steel in her expression. Then we show the collective why they should have been more afraid of us than we are of them. Humanity didn't crawl out of the mud and survive ice ages, plagues, and our own worst impulses just to fail now. The real question isn't whether we'll pass their trial. It's whether their precious collective will survive meeting us. As alerts began flashing across screens worldwide, Sarah looked out at the Earth hanging in the black void. Somewhere out there, ancient alien civilizations thought they could sit in judgment of humanity. They were about to learn what so many others had learned throughout human history. Underestimate humans at your own peril. The trial was coming. But humanity wasn't just going to survive it. They were going to rewrite the rules. The Trial of Worlds. 3 months after the collective's announcement, humanity had achieved more than in the previous decade. Nations that had been on the brink of war now collaborated on defense systems. Rival corporations shared breakthrough technologies. The International Space Coalition, hastily formed in the wake of First Contact, had already established bases on Mars and Europa. Sarah Chen stood before the United Nations Security Council, her hologram projected simultaneously to gatherings of world leaders across the globe. The collective's archived transmissions reveal a pattern, she said, gesturing to the data streams floating around her. Every failed species approached the trial the same way, by trying to prove their technological superiority. And you're suggesting we do something different? The Chinese premier leaned forward, her eyes sharp with interest. I'm suggesting we do something human. Sarah brought up images of previous trial species, crystalline beings, energy forms, creatures of pure thought. The collective values advancement, yes, but they've never encountered a species quite like us. We're adaptable, innovative, and most importantly, we're unpredictable. The UN Secretary General raised an eyebrow. Dr. Chen, you're not suggesting we intentionally antagonize an advanced alien federation. No, sir. I'm suggesting we show them exactly who we are. She paused, choosing her words carefully. The quantum array has decoded more of their historical records. Every species they've encountered evolved in a stable environment, developed in predictable patterns. But humans, we evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every step of the way. We survived ice ages, asteroids, our own nuclear mistakes. We turned deadly wolves into loyal companions and reshaped entire ecosystems to serve our needs. The room fell silent as Sarah's words stank in. She continued, her voice growing stronger. The collective thinks they're testing us, but they've never dealt with a species that thrives on being tested. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the chamber. A junior officer rushed in, face pale. Multiple objects just appeared in orbit. They're massive. Above Earth's atmosphere, 5 ships had materialized, each larger than Manhattan. Their surfaces rippled with impossible geometries, defying human understanding of physics. From the largest ship, a familiar hologram appeared in every major city simultaneously. Greetings again, children of Earth. Zixtal's voice resonated worldwide. We have observed your preparations with interest. The trial begins now. The ships released thousands of smaller objects that streaked toward Earth's surface. They weren't weapons, as many initially feared, but rather crystalline structures that buried themselves in the ground at precise intervals across the planet. These are the seeds of change, Zixtal announced. Each contains a different challenge, technological, ethical, biological. Some will test your intelligence. Others will test your very humanity. You have 1 month to overcome them all. Sarah watched as the nearest seed crystal erupted from the ground outside the UN building, forming a structure that seemed to bend reality around it. And if we refuse to participate, she asked, knowing the answer, then your species will be deemed unworthy, and the cleansing will begin. The hologram's form darkened, but you won't refuse. Your kind never does. Your curiosity and ambition will drive you to engage with the trials, even knowing they may destroy you. It is admirable in its way. As Zixtal spoke, Sarah noticed something in the alien's tone. Not just superiority, but perhaps a hint of fear. She filed the observation away for later analysis. The first challenge activated immediately. In New York, a crystal transformed into a quantum puzzle box that began emitting radiation. In Beijing, another became a biological hazard that threatened to reshape Earth's ecosystem. In Lagos, a third presented a moral dilemma involving consciousness transfer that would test the boundaries of human ethics. But something unexpected happened. Instead of competing for solutions, humanity collaborated. When the quantum puzzle in New York proved too complex for American scientists, they freely shared their data with Chinese quantum computing experts. When the biological threat in Beijing started spreading, Brazilian biodiversity researchers offered crucial insights. Sarah coordinated from lunar station Artemis, watching as humanity did what it did best: adapt, innovate, and overcome. The collective had designed each challenge to be impossible for a single approach, but they hadn't counted on humanity's greatest strength: their ability to combine different perspectives and methods in ways no other species had conceived. "Dr. Chen," James called out, his voice urgent. "I've been analyzing the crystal structures. There's something odd about their composition." Sarah joined him at his console, and her eyes widened as she saw the data. "These aren't just tests," she whispered. "They're measuring something else entirely. Run a full spectrum analysis on all active sites." As the data poured in, a pattern emerged that made Sarah's blood run cold. The crystals weren't just testing humanity's abilities, they were measuring their potential for change. And based on the readings, humanity was displaying levels of adaptability that the collective had never encountered before. "They're not afraid we'll fail," Sarah realized, watching as humans worldwide continued to tackle each challenge with unprecedented innovation. "They're afraid we'll succeed too well." The trial of worlds had begun. But as humanity rose to each challenge with unexpected solutions and unprecedented cooperation, it became increasingly clear that this test might reveal more about the testers than the tested. And in the quantum array's data stream, Sarah noticed something else: encrypted transmissions between collective ships that spoke not of assessment, but of containment. The real trial was just beginning. Breaking protocol. Sarah Chen hadn't slept in 3 days. The encrypted transmissions between collective ships had led her team down a rabbit hole of disturbing revelations. On her holographic display, fragments of alien code swirled like digital confetti, each piece adding to a picture that grew darker by the hour. "The trial isn't about advancement," she explained to the Emergency Security Council meeting. "It's about control." Her fingers traced patterns in the air, rearranging data streams. Every species that passed was psychologically similar: hierarchical, predictable, easy to integrate into the collective's power structure. And the ones that failed. The Russian president's hologram leaned forward, face grim. They were too independent, too creative, too— Sarah paused. Human. The chamber erupted in multilingual murmurs. James Morrison stepped forward, projecting new data. "We've decoded records of extinct civilizations, species that developed unique solutions to the trials, only to be deemed unstable and eliminated. The collective doesn't want partners, they want subjects." As if in response to their discovery, the challenges across Earth intensified. The quantum puzzle in New York began generating paradoxical equations that threatened to tear apart local spacetime. The biological threat in Beijing evolved faster than containment measures. The ethical dilemmas grew more complex, more demanding. But humanity's response continued to surprise their watchers. When the quantum puzzle threatened to collapse reality, physicists worldwide collaborated on a solution that didn't just solve the problem. It revealed new principles of quantum mechanics. When the biological threat evolved, Earth's scientists didn't just contain it. They reprogrammed it into a tool for ecological restoration. "We're getting reports from all test sites," James announced, scanning incoming data. "Humanity isn't just passing the trials. We're transforming them. The crystals are being repurposed, reformed." "Which is exactly what they fear," Sarah finished. She turned to address the council again. The collective's power structure is based on technological superiority and rigid control. But humans, we take technology and reshape it, improve it, sometimes break it completely to build something better. A new alert flashed across their screens. More collective ships had arrived in orbit, their designs distinctly more militant than the previous vessels. Zixtal's hologram appeared, but this time the alien's fluid form showed signs of agitation. Your species continues to surprise, children of Earth, the emissary said, but the usual condescension in its voice had been replaced by something else: concern, fear. However, we have detected unauthorized modifications to the trial apparatus. This is strictly forbidden. Forbidden by whom? Sarah challenged, her voice carrying across global channels. By the same authority that decided to eliminate species that showed too much potential. We've decoded your archives, Zixtal. We know about the others. The civilizations you destroyed not because they failed, but because they succeeded too well. The hologram flickered, its form becoming less stable. You cannot possibly understand the complexities of galactic governance. The collective maintains order. The collective maintains control, Sarah interrupted. But you've never encountered a species that evolved like we did. Humans don't just adapt to environments. We adapt the environment to us. We don't just solve problems. We redefine them. As she spoke, something remarkable was happening at test sites worldwide. The crystal structures, subjected to weeks of human innovation and experimentation, began to change. Their perfectly geometric forms became organic, flowing, integrating human-designed improvements and modifications. Impossible, Zixtal whispered, watching as humanity didn't just overcome the challenges, but transformed them into something new. But Sarah wasn't done. She projected her own data, the hidden transmissions, the buried records of destroyed civilizations, the true purpose of the trials. We're transmitting this information to every species in the collective, she announced. Every civilization you've judged, controlled, or suppressed. They're all learning the truth right now. The hologram's form became chaotic. You dare. We dare because that's what humans do, Sarah said. We dare to question, to challenge, to change. And we've already made contact with other species in the collective who feel the same way. It was true. While humanity had been solving the trials, they'd also been reaching out through the quantum network, finding allies among the collective's member species, ancient races who had long chafed under the collective's rigid control, younger civilizations who saw in humanity a chance for real change. You have no idea what you're unleashing, Zixtal warned. The protocols exist for a reason. Without them, we can all evolve, Sarah finished, not according to your prescribed patterns, but in our own ways, together. The crystal structures across Earth pulsed with new energy, transmitting humanity's modifications and improvements throughout the collective's network. It wasn't just a rebellion, it was a revolution, sparked by a species that had never learned to accept limitations. And as the collective's carefully maintained order began to crack, as suppressed civilizations began to rise up and long-controlled species began to break free, humanity stood ready to help build something new from the pieces. The trial wasn't ending. It was transforming, just like everything else humans touched. And the galaxy would never be the same. The hidden war. The first attacks came without warning. Collective warships emerged from hyperspace above Earth's major cities, their weapons charged. But humanity wasn't defenseless. Not anymore. The modified crystal structures that dotted the planet's surface hummed to life, projecting shields that the collective's weapons couldn't penetrate. They're using sixth-generation quantum weapons, James Morrison announced from his station at Lunar Base Artemis. But our adapted crystals are operating on principles they've never seen before. Sarah Chen watched the battle unfold on holographic displays, her mind racing. They're not just attacking Earth, she said, pointing to incoming data streams. They're targeting every species that joined our rebellion. The collective is trying to maintain control through force. But the collective had miscalculated. In the weeks since humanity had exposed the truth about the trials, they'd shared their innovations freely with their new allies. Ancient races who had stagnated under collective rule found new inspiration in human creativity. Younger species learned to combine their technology with Earth's unique approaches. Status report from the Proxima Alliance. A communications officer called out. The Proxima species, silicon-based crystalline beings, had been one of the first to join humanity's cause. Their shipyards are producing hybrid vessels, collective tech modified with human innovations. On screens worldwide, humanity watched as their influence spread across the galaxy. The war wasn't fought just with weapons, but with ideas. Every human solution, every creative adaptation, was shared instantly across a network of allied species. The collective's rigid protocols began to crumble in the face of unprecedented collaboration. They never understood what makes us different, Sarah said, addressing an emergency meeting of Earth's United Defense Council. The collective built their empire on stability and control. But humans, we thrive on change. We take apart, rebuild, improve. It's not just what we do, it's what we are. The evidence was everywhere. Human scientists, working with alien counterparts, developed technologies that broke the collective's fundamental rules. Earth's military strategists introduced chaos theory and guerrilla tactics to species that had only known formal warfare. Even human art and culture began spreading among the stars, inspiring new forms of expression in civilizations that had been creatively stagnant for millennia. But the collective wouldn't go down without a fight. Their most loyal enforcer fleets launched devastating attacks on rebellious worlds. Planets burned. Civilizations that had stood for millions of years faced extinction. The galaxy erupted in the first full-scale war it had seen since the collective's rise to power. "They're attacking the Centauri hub," James reported, his voice tense. The Centauri, energy beings who had secretly preserved records of extinct species, had become crucial allies. Their archives contained proof of every civilization the collective destroyed. If those records are lost, they won't be, Sarah interrupted. She turned to her team. Initialize Protocol Phoenix. Across Earth, the crystal structures began to pulse with new energy. Humanity had spent weeks not just studying them, but fundamentally altering their nature. Now they weren't just defensive tools. They were the keys to something much bigger. What you never understood, Sarah broadcast on all frequencies, knowing the collective would be listening, is that humans don't just adapt to survive. We adapt to thrive. Every challenge you presented, every weapon you used against us, became a tool for our evolution. The crystal's energy reached a crescendo. In orbit, on distant worlds, throughout the galaxy, similar structures responded. The network humanity had built wasn't just for communication or defense. It was a new kind of consciousness, a fusion of organic and artificial intelligence that transcended the collective's rigid categories. Impossible. Zixtal's hologram appeared, its form more unstable than ever. You cannot possibly control such power. The protocols exist to prevent exactly this kind of chaos. We don't want to control it, Sarah replied. We want to set it free, to let it grow, change, become something new, just like we did. The network activated. Across the galaxy, oppressed species found their shackles breaking. Collective control systems, built on predictability and hierarchy, couldn't cope with the surge of human-inspired innovation. Their fleets, faced with weapons and defenses that evolved faster than they could respond, began to fall. But it wasn't just military victory that humanity sought. As the collective's power crumbled, something new began to emerge, a galactic society based not on control and conformity, but on creativity and collaboration. Species that had been enemies under the collective's rule found common ground in human ideas of diversity and adaptation. The archives are secure, James reported. The Centauri are broadcasting the truth to every world in the galaxy. The collective's lies are exposed. Sarah watched as the battle turned decisively in their favor. But she knew this was just the beginning. Humanity hadn't fought this war to become the new collective. They'd fought to create something entirely new. A galaxy where every species could evolve in its own way, where difference was celebrated rather than suppressed. The hidden war was ending. But the real challenge, building a better future from the ashes of the old order, was just beginning. Ascendancy. 1 year after the fall of the collective, the galaxy looked nothing like it had before. The rigid hierarchies and controlled evolution that had defined galactic civilization for millennia had given way to something new, something uniquely human in its beautiful chaos. Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly on Mars, watching representatives from thousands of species gather for the first true democratic meeting in the galaxy's history. Some floated as pure energy, others shifted through multiple dimensions, while yet others existed as collective consciousnesses. All had been transformed by their contact with humanity. The latest reports from the outer sectors are in, James Morrison said, approaching with a holographic display. The last collective loyalist fleet surrendered this morning. The war is officially over. But Sarah knew that ending the war had been the easy part, and the ascendancy protocol. Spreading faster than we anticipated, species that were stagnant for millions of years are experiencing explosive cultural and technological growth. They're not just copying our innovations, they're creating their own, combining human ideas with their unique perspectives. The assembly chamber hummed with energy as Zixtal, no longer an emissary, but a refugee seeking asylum, took the central platform. The once proud representative of the collective had changed, its liquid metal form now incorporating organic elements inspired by human biology. "I was wrong about your species," Zixtal announced, its voice carrying to every corner of the galaxy through the modified crystal network. "We all were. We saw your chaos as a weakness, your adaptability as a threat. We never understood that these were the very qualities the galaxy needed." Sarah stepped forward to address the assembly. The collective's greatest mistake wasn't their desire for order, it was their fear of change. They saw evolution as something to be controlled, measured, restricted. But humanity knows that true evolution is messy, unpredictable, and beautiful. Around them, the evidence of this new philosophy was everywhere. Species that had once been bitter enemies now collaborated on massive engineering projects. Civilizations that had been trapped in technological stasis for eons were producing innovations that would have been impossible under the collective's rigid protocols. The ascendancy protocol isn't just about technological advancement, Sarah continued. It's about freedom, the freedom to grow, to change, to make mistakes, and learn from them. It's about taking the best of what makes us human and sharing it with the galaxy, while learning from the unique perspectives of every species we encounter. The crystal network, once a tool of control, had become the nervous system of a new kind of galactic society. But unlike the collective's forced uniformity, this network celebrated diversity. Each species contributed its own unique frequencies, creating a symphony of consciousness that spanned the stars. "We're detecting new phenomena in evolved species," James reported, showing Sarah the latest data. "Some are developing abilities we never thought possible. The Proxima crystallines have learned to manipulate time itself. The Centauri energy beings are exploring parallel dimensions. It's like we've unlocked something fundamental in the universe itself." "We didn't unlock it," Sarah corrected him. "We just showed them that the locks were unnecessary." In orbit above Mars, ships of every conceivable design moved in harmony. Some were biological, others mechanical, many a combination of technologies that would have been forbidden under the collective. Earth had become a hub of galactic culture, a place where species came to learn, to share, to grow. The former collective worlds, once uniform and sterile, bloomed with diversity. Cities that had been identical for millennia transformed as their inhabitants embraced creativity and individual expression. New art forms emerged, combining elements from thousands of cultures. Sciences advanced not through careful control, but through bold experimentation and collaboration. There are risks, Zixtal warned, its form shifting nervously. Not every experiment will succeed. Not every change will be beneficial. Without the protocols, we're free, Sarah interrupted. Free to fail, free to learn, free to become something greater than any single species could be alone. She gestured to the assembly, to the thousands of diverse beings working together in ways the collective had never imagined possible. This is humanity's gift to the galaxy, not our technology or our innovations, but our spirit, our willingness to embrace the unknown, to challenge the impossible, to see diversity not as a threat, but as strength. The Ascendancy Protocol continued to spread, not as a force of control, but as an invitation to evolution. Species that joined didn't become more human. They became more themselves, freed from the artificial constraints that had bound them for so long. And in the dark spaces between the stars, in the quantum realm and dimensions beyond, something new was growing. The galaxy itself seemed to be awakening, responding to the combined consciousness of billions of freely evolving minds. What do you think will become? James asked, watching as another wave of innovations swept through the crystal network. Sarah smiled, looking out at the infinite possibilities stretching before them. Something new, she said. Something that even we can't predict. And that's exactly how it should be. The age of the collective was over. The age of humanity, of freedom, of chaos, of infinite potential, had begun. And the galaxy would never be the same.